Let's stay with that story now. We speak to Jennifer Victor, Professor of Political Science at George Mason University. She's in Fairfax, Virginia right now. Professor, thank you very much for your time. What are you thinking as you watch these proceedings?
Well, from my perspective, it's been a pretty gripping day. I've had it on in the background, checking different news channels during the day. I think from most people's perspectives, it's been a bit dull. But there's been a steady presentation of evidence that the Democrats have controlled today, that they'll continue over the next couple of days, with the Republicans probably beginning their presentations on Saturday.
Because this is much more a political process than a legal one, isn't it? And the result is almost certain to be on party lines.
Yeah, I mean, essentially what we're viewing is a partisan political process dressed up to look like a judicial one. But there's nothing particularly judicial going on about the proceedings, despite the fact that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is sitting up there in the chair.
There have been signs, haven't there, that some more moderate Republican senators seem to move the Senate Majority Leader away from some of his more restrictive plans for the trial. Is it still possible, given that witnesses might be called?
I think it's possible. You know, it's interesting. Majority Leader McConnell started his beginning bargaining position was so strict and so low on the bar, as you might say, that the fact that he gave in to a bit of an agreement about the changes in time distribution seemed like a little bit of a win for the Democrats, but I don't think McConnell or most Republicans felt like they were giving up much. After the Republicans do their presentations for a couple of days and then they have questions somewhere in the middle or the end of next week, they'll have a debate about whether or not to have witnesses. And we're looking to, so the Democrats would need 4 Republicans to peel off and vote with them to agree to have witnesses. And Republican Susan Collins of Maine has already publicly stated that she's probably willing to do that. So it's looking like it's possible.
Yeah, you will know better than me. It's almost exactly 21 years ago, I think, that a president from the Democratic Party was facing impeachment. Do you see meaningful comparisons with the Clinton impeachment?
You know, I was a younger person at the time, but I do remember watching it. And there's a lot of similarities, but the biggest difference, well, 2 big differences that I would point to is Bill Clinton was in his 2nd term. He had no possibility of re-election, and the questions around his impeachment had nothing to do with elections. Donald Trump is in his 1st term and is seeking re-election, and the very questions of his impeachment are about an electoral issue. The other biggest issue between the 1990s is that the polarization in the United States Congress has increased much more dramatically. And the effect that has is parties, as they become more spread apart, have a greater sense of risk of losing. So each party is trying to save face and not so much about winning their own positions, but making sure the other side, that they don't lose to the other side, because as the distance increases, that loss increases.
Professor, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.